All right, today we're cracking open a case file on a scientific investigation that, honestly, gets about as personal as it gets. We're on the trail of an intruder, one that's so small it's totally invisible, but it might be a whole lot closer than you realize. So let's follow the evidence and just see where this thing leads.
We've all heard about the plastic problem, right? We see the pictures of it choking our oceans, piling up in landfills. But that's always been the problem out there. What happens when that problem stops being out there? What if the evidence is starting to show it's already in here? And that question leads us directly to the first part of our investigation, tracking down this unwanted intruder and figuring out exactly where it's been hiding. You see, for years, scientists have been tracking these tiny particles all over the environment. So the next question was, well, it was as logical as it was a little bit terrifying. If this stuff is everywhere in the world around us, has it somehow managed to get inside the human body?
Well, the answer is a shocking and very definite yes. The sheer number of places they've been found is, honestly, it's startling. We're talking about these particles being found circulating in our blood. They've been detected deep in our lungs and lower airways. They've even been found in the placenta, a biological barrier that's supposed to protect a developing fetus. It's become crystal clear that this intruder has breached some of our body's most well-guarded spaces.
So, okay, we have confirmed sightings. The next step in any good investigation is to get a really clear profile of the suspect. What exactly are we dealing with here?
The official name for our intruder is microplastics, and they're pretty much what they sound like, microscopic little pieces of plastic. They can be tiny particles, films, or even fibers. Basically, they're the tiny, fragmented ghosts of the massive plastic world we've built all around us. And when we say microscopic, we really mean it. The official classification is any particle with a diameter of less than 5 millimeters. To put that in perspective for you, that's smaller than a single sesame seed. And it's this tiny size that makes them such effective and such invisible intruders. Now, they've been around for a while, but our direct contact with them has absolutely skyrocketed recently. A lot of new research points to the massive, and I mean massive, increase in the use of disposable masks during the pandemic as a major new way we're getting exposed, dramatically upping our daily contact with these fibers. So, now that our suspect has been identified and located, the investigation moves into its most critical phase, examining the body of evidence to figure out the actual risk. You see, finding these particles in the body was really just the beginning. Now the real work starts. All around the world, systematic toxicological investigations are underway. The big goal here is to figure out if this intruder is just a passive trespasser, just passing through, or if it's actually causing real harm. And this whole scientific process kind of unfolds in 3 key steps. First, researchers are trying to uncover the modes of action, which is just a sciencey way of saying how these plastics are actually interacting with our cells. Then, second, they meticulously document any adverse effects. That's the real, observable damage that might be happening. And finally, step 3, they try to reveal the toxic mechanisms, the specific biological domino effect that leads from that initial contact to actual harm. But, like any good detective story, this case is so far from being closed. In fact, the more scientists learn, the more questions they seem to have. Which brings us to the unsolved mysteries. This is a super active, really fast, evolving field of research. That initial discovery has basically blown the doors open on a whole new set of what they're calling emerging critical issues that scientists are now racing to understand. So the main takeaway here is that we are really just at the beginning of this story. And these are the big questions that are keeping scientists up at night. What's the long-term impact of a whole lifetime of this low-level exposure? Does a tiny particle of PET plastic from a water bottle act differently in our bodies than, say, a polystyrene fragment from a coffee cup? And maybe the most important question of all, is there any level of this stuff inside of us that can actually be considered safe? Right now, we just don't have the answers. So, where does all of this lead? What's the end game for this massive global investigation? Well, it's all about getting to a final verdict. This isn't just about scientists being curious in a lab. The whole entire purpose of gathering all this evidence is to build a solid scientific case that can be used to make huge decisions about public health, about manufacturing, and about how we manage waste in the real world. I mean, listen to what the researchers themselves say. The ultimate goal of their work is to provide, quote, helpful information for regulatory decisions. This is science being put directly in the service of society. The evidence they're gathering in the lab is meant to guide the policies that will protect all of our health in the future.
So, the case of the invisible intruder is officially open. The evidence is being meticulously collected, and frankly, the stakes couldn't be any higher. The question that's left for all of us is this: when all the facts are finally in, what is that final verdict going to mean for the future of human health?